Hello students, good afternoon to one and all. So welcome to the online video classes. So I am welcoming you to all to the sociology class. So the unit 1 is going on, unit 2 is going on. So here the unit 2 is particularly deals about the agrarian social structure. So whereas in last class we have discussed about in our last class we have discussed about the caste system and the hegemony system, how the caste is playing an important role in the society, how the hegemony system has taken place, how the caste based segregation or caste based occupations are taken place, how these caste groups are working in their own point of view for the sake of others. So these are the things we have discussed in our last class. So present, let us start our class about the agrarian social structure. So what is agrarian social structure? Agrarian social structure is nothing but the agriculture society and its structure. So agriculture society and its structure is explains about the agrarian social structure. So here if we go in detail about the agrarian social structure, the network of relationships among the various groups or persons who draw their livelihood from the soil. So it means that the human beings who are relation with the natural nature like land is called agrarian social structure. So this is particularly appears as in the rural areas. So the urban areas are completely service oriented sectors, development areas, but whereas the rural areas are agricultural based economic sectors. So in the agrarian social structures, the relations between the human beings are very close. The relations are maintained or enforced by the land. So the land gathered them at one place. They build their relations. So they enjoy their relations. They maintain their relations with each other. So that is why the agrarian social structure is one of the most important social structure in Indian scenario particularly, because in India the more than 50% of the economy is from the agriculture based economy. So agriculturists or agrarian social structure or agrarian society is more in India with compared to the other nations or developed nations. So that is why one of the famous sociologist Thorner Daniel, he was classified about the agrarian zones as 7 zones. So based on their areas, uh, their their areas and their geographical locations. So for example, if we classify the agrarian zones as a 7 based on the various concepts like the socio-economic system. If we take a village, there is different kinds of social groups in the village, like upper caste, lower caste, middle classes, Dalits, tribals, like this. So this kind of social structure is there in the village structure, and economical system also different. So within the village there are haves and have nots, landlords and landless. So uh, economically elite people and poor people. So these kind of system appears in the agrarian social structures. That is why one of the base is to classify the agrarian social structure is the socio-economic system. The second characteristics of agrarian social structure is the type of land holdings. If we go to villages, the village is the combination of some acres of land. So it is the integration of some acres of land. So the village is combination of various types of caste, communities, groups. So some of the castes have landholders, landlords, and some of the people are landless. So the land holdings are different. Some maybe some of the families have huge lands, some of the families have marginal lands, minimal lands, and some of the families have landless people. So this landless land holding system is also one of the main characteristics of the classification of agrarian social structure. Then the third classification is a labor supply. So here the labor do their works. So some of the labor are exclusively deals with particular fields. For example, if you go to Assam areas, the tea gardens, the tea gardens maintained by particular groups, only women workers are mainly works in the tea gardens. So like that there are different labor groups, they will give their contribution to develop the agrarian sector. So then the control of credit, so here the control of credit is exclusively deals about the market system, marketing system, then processing system. So this is also one of the classification of the agrarian zone. Then geographical factors, geographical factor also plays an important role in deciding the agrarian zone. So some of the areas are specialized to a particular crops. For example, if apples are exclusively produces in cool areas like Jammu Kashmir. Kashmir apples are famous worldwide. And in recent in Telangana government also given initiative uh, to produce apples in Telangana area. But the Kashmir area is famous, and some of the areas like if we go to tribal areas of uh, some Srikakulam district, they produce these they produce they produce they produce almonds. So like this, and the crop pattern is crop pattern also one of the main classification of the agrarian sector, the cultivating units. So some of the areas are specialized for particular crops and another areas are specialized in particular crops. Some of the lands are gives more production to particular crops. For example, block soils, red soils, and sand soils. So different soils are gives different kinds of productions. So if we take, for example, if we take black soil, so black soils are very famous to the cotton and paddy. So like this, and sugar cane. So and red cells are very famous for the groundnuts. So like this. So then the modernization and industrialization. So in present scenario, the agriculture is also following different kinds of modernizations. And the missionary agriculture is doing even in India. So the technical agriculture, missionary agriculture has been taking place. If we go to 10 years back, the entire village is depends upon the human resources. But now the entire the cultivating system, the agriculture is depends on the machinery system. The harvesting machine is coming and cleaning within 2-3 hours some acres of lands. So this is the a classification of agrarian zones. Then if we go to the rural agrarian social structure, so in the rural agrarian social structure, the rural agrarian social structure is relatively stable because it stay at one place. The rural is enlarges from there itself. The social relationships are very strong with compared to the towns. The rural social structure is the symbol of agriculture. So it considered as the inter-references status. So it has its own characteristics. It has its own inventives, and it has the combination of different communities. So that is why the rural agrarian social structure is the most important combination of different kinds of caste, class, and gender people. So we can say it as it means a rural agrarian social structure as an organized pattern of interrelated uh, interrelated boundary or area, interrelated area. So each one depends on others. Others are depends on others. So like this, a kind of relationship is appears in the rural areas. The rural people live in a settled villages. So almost the villages is called a rural areas. So the villages itself a major villages, clans, godems, thandas, and also farms. So like this, the settlement pattern is different. There are mainly three types of settlements in rural agrarian society. So, for example, if we go to in detail about the type of settlements, the first one is nuclear villages. So here the nuclear villages are founded all over the country, from north to south, east to west, all over the country. These a common type of nuclear villages. So these kind of villages found all over the country. So these kind of nuclear villages are tight clustered of homes or houses. So they are surrounded by the fields of the villages. The village is surrounded by the fields. That fields is particularly belongs to these villagers. So they settled at the center of their fields, and the outlying hamlets or some several settled hamlets are also found to be attached. ఒక గ్రామానికి ఇంకొక అటాచ్డ్ విలేజెస్ ఉంటాయి. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇప్పుడు రీసెంట్లీ ద తాండాసర్ బికెమ్ గ్రామ పంచాయత్. బట్ బిఫోర్ దట్ ద తాండాసర్ కమ్స్ అండర్ ఎ పర్టికులర్ విలేజ్. సో లైక్ దట్ ద అటాచ్మెంట్ is there in the rural agrarian structure. The second one, the second structure of settlement is the liner based settlements. So here the liner based settlements is mostly appears in the delta belts like Kerala, Konkan area and the delta territory of Bengal. So in this type of settlements, the people settled in a line format besides the canals and delta territories. So then the third one is residential groups. So the residential form of settlements. So these kind of settlements are appears in northeast areas, hilly areas. So like Gujarat belt and Satpura range valleys areas. So in this type of villages, the physical divide is not clear because the settlements pattern is like an apartments. So there is no spread out the village like a common type villages or nuclear villages. The type is different. So these type of residential format group of villages are found in the hilly areas. So if you take any village, the rural agrarian society is almost agricultural based village, product agricultural based economies, villages. The main work of the main occupation of the villagers is agriculture. So absolutely agriculture. That is why it is called as a agrarian society. The rural life is characteristics by a direct relationship of the people, because they have their own relations with others. They maintain such kind of relations. So, and also they have a kind of relation with the nature, like land, animals, plants, etc. These kind of attachment or a relation with nature is occurs or exists as in a agrarian social structure. And if we go to the system, so almost the rural agrarian society is uh, joint family system. So if we go to villages, the family system are two types. The first one is the joint family and the second one is nuclear family. So these joint families also called as extended families. So in the extended families, the two, three generations people used to live together. They used to stay together. They used to eat together. They used to work together and they share their work. So the work division, the work is allotted by the head of the families to particular persons. Those who are experts in plowing, they will hand over the plowing. Those who are experts in cleaning section, they will uh, allotted the cleaning area. Those who are experts in cooking, like women, they are allotted the kitchen work. So like this, the head of the family is takes whole and sole responsibility of the joint families, and he leads the family. There is a such kind of relations were maintained in that type of families. There is a kind of harmony is appears as. But in recent time, in the rural areas also, the nuclear families are taking place. The joint family system is day to day collapsing with compared to the previous days. And the other characteristics of rural agrarian social structure is the kinship or lineage. So here within the village, a group of families tracing descent from a common ancestor. If village, for example, if we take one village, ఒక విలేజ్లో ఒక్క ఇనిషియల్ వచ్చేవాళ్ళు ఒక, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ వి టేక్ బుక్యా ఆర్ మైత్రి ఆర్ రాథోడ్. సో ఇలా ఒక సంతతి వాళ్ళు ఎంతోమంది ఫ్యామిలీస్ ఉంటారు, కనీసం ఒక 20, 30, 50 ఏళ్ళు ఉండొచ్చు. వాళ్ళందరికీ వారసుడు ఒక్కడే, ఒక జనరేషన్కి ఒక 3, 4, 5 జనరేషన్స్ కనుక వెళ్తే. సో దే ట్రేస్ దేర్ డీసెంట్స్ ఫ్రమ్ ఏ కామన్ ancestor. Some generations or age groups behave as a brothers and sisters. సో సేమ్ గ్రూప్ ఏజ్ వాళ్ళు ఒక బ్రదర్స్ అండ్ సిస్టర్స్ లాగా పెరుగుతూ ఉంటారు. సో ఇన్ ద కిన్స్ దెర్ ఇస్ నో internal marriage. They cannot allow the marriage within the groups. So they go for brides and bridegrooms for other communities. So they continue same clan or gotra, even though they are come from a common ancestors. They maintain the same gotra, same clan from the same person. So if we go to caste system in the village, the caste system is most important scenario of the rural village, because if you go to any village, so it is the caste system plays an important aspect in rural structure. So the common name with common ancestors and common descent. So these are the roots of the caste system. So the in the present scenario, the caste system is gradually changing day to day. So, in rural agrarian social structure, some of the castes have more lands, landlords. They maintain certain kinds of dominance over other castes. If we go to history, the society is divided based on the occupations. So, if we go according to Manu, the society is divided in four varnas such as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. So, these categories and four categories have their own identity, their own works. If Brahmins are does the spiritual works, the Kshatriyas does the statecraft works, the ruling works, and if we go to Vaishyas, they do a trading works, the business, and whereas the Shudras, they do all kind of labor works. So, they are subordinates to the others. So, this kind of system is appears in even today in rural areas. Then the economic system, the last characteristics of a rural agrarian social structure is economic system. So, the economy is the most important concept of the India. The agrarian social structure is the center of economy. So, it determines the social structure and other factors like land, water resources. So, based on this land and resources, the agrarian social structure flourished in the villages. So, some of the landowners, they maintain land and they will give a such kind of work to others, and they get their services, they render their the lower cost render their services to the landlords, and they get some kind of benefits or payments. So, in one statement that the agrarian social structures economy is most important, it is a agricultural based economy. We can say the rural economy is agricultural based economy. So, this is the rural agrarian social structure. So, if we conclude this in a rural social structure, the agrarian social structure, in the present today, the agrarian social structure has been changing from the past to present. In those days, the agrarian social structure is different from today's agrarian social structure. The missionary agriculture is taking place. So, even though agriculture is most important sector in India and as well as to the world. Okay, my dear students. So, this is the agrarian social structure. So, I will post the notes in the video group. So, please write down the notes. Okay, bye, take care.